In this lecture titled Thinking Think: The Contributions of Descartes to Epistemology, we will be looking at the contributions of one of the greatest philosophers of modern history, René Descartes. We will study his philosophy in building knowledge based on foundationalism and his method of doubt. We will look at his dreaming doubt and the evil genius doubt. Then we will journey with him in his discovery of the cogito and his well-known philosophical statement, I think, therefore I exist. We will get insights on how Descartes unravels the mystery question, who am I? We shall glance through his theory of ideas, especially focusing on his innate idea about God. We will then work together to find his general criterion for certainty, thereby defining truth and error. We will also briefly study his arguments for the existence of the soul, God, and the material things. In putting forward his arguments for the existence of God, Descartes gets into an awful vicious circle, famously called the Cartesian circle. We look at a couple of strategies to get out of this vicious circle. We will then look at his mind-body dualism by understanding his difference between the two. Finally, we will end with his contribution to ethics in the provisional moral code that appears in part 3 of his discourse on the method. René Descartes is often credited to be the father of modern philosophy, as he broke away from the traditional scholastic Aristotelian philosophy to create and promote his new philosophy of mechanistic sciences. This break was twofold. First, he thought the traditional approach to knowledge through sensation was prone to doubt, and second, he wanted to replace the final causal model of scientific explanation with a modern mechanistic model. René Descartes was born to Joachim Descartes and Jeanne Brocard on March 31st, 1596, in La Haye, France near Tours. He was a creative mathematician, an important scientific thinker, and a metaphysician. His groundbreaking approach to philosophy in his meditations on first philosophy determined the course of subsequent philosophy. The very problems with which much of modern philosophy has been primarily concerned arise as a consequence of Descartes' thought. His best-known philosophical statement is cogito ergo sum. Foundationalism. Descartes proposed to build knowledge as a well-structured architectural edifice with a strong foundation and a superstructure of beams anchored on the foundation to support it. One of the analogy that he uses is of justified beliefs. The foundation here is the first principles, and a superstructure is the unshakable inferences anchored on these principles. One of the examples is Euclid's geometry. The foundations are the first principles like definitions, postulates, and axioms or common notions, and superstructures are the further propositions built on these. The foundational method, when applied for metaphysical inquiry, creates conflicts because the first principles, unlike in the cases of Euclid's geometry, could be in conflict with the senses. Over the years, because of our poor judgment, we have built many preconceived notions that obscure the mental vision of the innate principles. So when the opportunity comes to look for these common notions, we are unable to see them, hence end up on a shaky ground. Descartes calls for setting aside of all our preconceived notions to prevent any possibility of building the edifice of knowledge on mistaken first principles. A complementary method is needed to help identify the genuine first principles from the mistaken ones. Descartes developed a method of doubt to enable us to set aside our preconceived notions. Method of doubt. In the architectural analogy, we will need bulldozers as ground clearing tools to remove the loose sand that is on the surface, so that we go deeper in the ground until we reach the strong, hard surface on which we could build the foundation. Similarly, in knowledge building, Descartes employs skeptical doubt as his epistemic demolition machine to find doubt in every preconceived opinion. The aim is to reach certainty, that firm surface beneath the ground. The bulldozers are normally employed for destructive purposes, but Descartes uses skeptical doubt for constructive purposes, so that we could gauge the firmness of the candidates that are put forward as foundations of knowledge. Here I'm reminded of the reality TV series Fear Factor. The contestants are put through some of the most daring stunts in order to find that one person that could overcome his fears and emerge a winner. We come across many contestants that are all talk, so like the preconceived notions of the loose sand, they fizzle out when put to test. Some have criticized Descartes' method of doubt for its universal and hyperbolic character. However, he found that both these characters were helpful as they effectively identify first principles. The universal and hyperbolic character enable in identifying the genuinely unshakable first principles from the ones that are only appearance. The universal character of doubt that stems from the need to demolish everything and start over again from the foundation. It is about applying doubt collectively as opposed to individually. For instance, if in a basket of apples one of the apples is rotten, then we would take all the apples out of the basket and put only the good ones back. In the same way, we need to take all the opinions that are formed out of the mind and put back those that are genuine so that our minds don't get contaminated. The hyperbolic character of doubt is needed when the bulldozer is unable to distinguish between a medium-sized boulder and an immovable bedrock. The solution lies in replacing a light-duty bulldozer with a heavy-duty demolition tool. This heavy-duty tool is the most powerful doubt that we could bring about. The more hyperbolic the doubt, the better. The evil genius doubt fits the bill. Dreaming doubt. There are two dream-related doubts. Firstly, the undermining of the judgment that I am presently awake, now dreaming doubt, and the undermining of the judgment that I am ever awake, always dreaming doubt. The thesis is that the experience that I have while dreaming is similar to that had waking up. Based on how similar the experience is, we could have strong or weak similarity thesis. If dreaming and waking are the same, then the question arises if now I'm dreaming or awake. This conclusion of I don't know that I am now awake has widespread skeptical consequences. For if I am holding a pen in my hand, an experience of the senses that cannot be doubted, the application of the now dreaming doubt changes my mind. I begin to wonder if all that I'm experiencing is part of a beautiful dream. The aim of the always dreaming doubt is not to undermine if I am awake or not, but to question if the external objects have any role to play in sensation. The cognitive process involved in dreaming and waking are the same, if I have same experience in both. The conclusion of this doubt is even more devastating. It puts the existence of an external world at doubt. For all you know, I may be in a delusional world. Evil genius doubt. In the first meditation, Descartes tells that arithmetic, geometry, and similar disciplines deal with simple and most general of things. Hence, I can be indifferent to know if these things exist or not. For example, 2 plus 5 adds up to 7, either if I'm dreaming or waking. However, he goes on to question the goodness of the all-powerful God. What if he has taken possession of my mind and has sown seeds of deception in them? Probably this external world is a part of the setup and it does not exist. How do I know if I am not in error in things that I believe are perfect knowledge, like 2 plus 2 is 4, or a square has 4 sides? If God was all perfect, and I was created to be his subject, then he should not allow me to be deceived at any moment, as it would then be contrary to his nature, as it is a form of defect. However, we know that we are deceived in certain things. Therefore, Descartes supposes the existence of some malignant demon, evil genius, that is exceedingly deceitful, has employed all his resources to trick me. This hyperbolic doubt enables me to not give an assent to even the most certain of things, but have them pass through the natural light of reason. Cogito ergo sum. Descartes employed methodic doubt to discover if there was any indubitable doubt, truth. Lucky enough, he found truth in the affirmation cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. In the very act of doubting my existence is manifest. I could very well doubt the existence of my body, the external world, and all material things in general, but this cannot be extended to my existence. This truth could also withstand the deception of the evil genius theory. For if I am deceived, I must exist to be deceived. This discovery of the cogito guaranteed the existence of the mind, but not the body. This point was made by St. Augustine centuries before, in expressing his foundational truth in the form si fallor sum. If I am deceived, I exist. However, Descartes preferred to formulate his truth in the non-hypothetical form cogito ergo sum. Doubting is a mode of thinking. Therefore, the certainty of my existence is obtained when I am thinking or conscious. Thus, the essence of my existence is in my thinking. For it might possibly be the case that if I ceased entirely to think, I should likewise cease altogether to exist. The question thus arises, if according to Descartes, I infer or intuit my existence, the answer to this question is that when he says, I think, therefore I am, we cannot deduce existence as a syllogism, but by a simple act of mental vision. For if it were deduced syllogistically, then the major premise that everything that thinks exists would have to be known previously. But this has been learned by individual experience, that unless I exist, I cannot think. That is to say, I intuit in a concrete case the impossibility of my thinking without my existing, and I express this intuition in the proposition cogito ergo sum. Descartes came to the conclusion that I think, therefore I am, is the indubitable doubt on which he should found his philosophy. This, without any scruples, was the first principle of the philosophy that he was seeking. Cogito raises many philosophical questions. Here are a few questions that the discovery of the cogito raises. First-person formulation. Third-person claims, like Socrates thinks or Plato thinks, are not unshakably certain. The only thing that I can be certain of are my thoughts. This can withstand hyperbolic doubt. Present tense formulation is essentially necessary for the certainty of the cogito. It is about the present moment. My past and future thoughts cannot prove with certainty my existence. Hence there is no point reasoning that I existed at last Saturday's celebration because I recall that I was thinking. It depends on my thinking.